Starting your West Ham career mode with Graham Potter brings a thrilling opportunity for revival. After a lackluster start to the season that sees the club languishing in 14th place, the board have decided to part ways with Julien Lopetegui. Enter Graham Potter, a tactician known for his adaptable systems and ability to maximize talents, who would be ready to breathe new life into the current squad. There are whispers of some surprise moves, with West Ham eyeing 2 Chelsea players alongside a potential swoop for a young world-class striker. These signings could be the catalyst Potter needs to turn the season around for West Ham. So we're going to start off with assessing the squad and decide whether certain players fit into Graham Potter's philosophy, and if certain players maybe might need to find a new club come the January or summer transfer windows. So taking a look at the goalkeeping department, Fabianski is in the final 6 months of his deal, and I haven't been able to really see if West Ham are going to extend him or not, but in all honesty, I don't think he really fits into what Graham Potter would expect from his goalkeeper. Areola is a potential to be the number 1 going forward, but maybe looking to get rid of Fabianski, let him leave in the summer for free, and bring in another goalkeeper, one that best fits the sweeper keeper role that Graham Potter does demand from his backline and of course the goalkeeper. That might be the best approach going forward. In terms of the left backs, we got Aaron Cresswell and Emerson, both of which fits the role and the mold of a fullback that Potter would demand from his wider defenders, but Cresswell is set to expire, so I do have a player that could come in and do just as good of a job, if not a better job, in terms of the prolonged future in that position. Now there are 2 centre backs that are currently out on loan from West Ham, Kurt Zouma being one and of course Nauf Agurd being the other. Both of these centre backs, I see their futures away from West Ham, whether it's selling Nauf Agurd for PSR reasons or just try and balance the books, and of course selling Kurt Zouma because of the injury issues that he has had in the past. It makes the most sense to try and move on from both of them. And in terms of Nauf Agurd, I do think he is good enough to be a ball-playing defender for Graham Potter, but I think it's just the relationship between him and the club have broken down, and realistically it makes the most sense to move on from him. And a centre back that I do think will be a success, a major success under Graham Potter, will be the likes of Todibo, a fantastic ball-playing defender, a player that can take the ball out of defense and create aggressive overloads higher up the field and really look to dominate the opposition, whether it's in the aerial or ground duels. Now Todibo's current situation is he is on loan at West Ham from Nice, but there is an obligation to buy in the summer for 40 million, which will be met, and of course West Ham will be able to pay those fees. So looking to secure him on a permanent deal might be the best and most realistic thing going forward. Now just like with Fabianski, Vladimir Coufal is set to have his contract expire in the next 6 months, but from all the research that I have been able to do, it looks like West Ham are going to try and extend him for another 3 years, meaning that he will be able to provide a great option off the bench or maybe even starting in certain games down that right flank. I think he does possess a few qualities that could make him very useful for Graham Potter. He does like to whip the ball in, supply the strike with great crosses and opportunities in the box, and of course with just signing Aaron Wan-Bissaka, you would need an adequate backup or potential replacements for the English right back, of course, and Vladimir Coufal has been a great servant to the club, and I don't really see Graham Potter having an issue with him being utilized off the bench or, like I say, in the odd starting game here and there. Another player that could be leaving West Ham is Edson Alvarez, a bit of a shock move I might say, but the other day I did see that he was linked with a move to Monaco potentially, and he hasn't really been able to show his qualities in a West Ham shirt over the last 2 years. So maybe shifting him on and bringing in some money and then maybe looking to reinvest that money in the squad might be the best direction going forward for Edson Alvarez as well as West Ham under Graham Potter. As for Maxwell Cornet, another player who hasn't really been able to show his best qualities and attributes at West Ham, and he was loaned out in the past summer window to Southampton, and again he hasn't really been able to establish himself in a relegation team. So I think at the end of the loan from Southampton, he'll obviously come back and you should look to possibly shift him on and get some money back for him, and then look to reinvest that into possible targets that would fit into Graham Potter's philosophy and style of play. Now James Ward-Prowse is a peculiar situation, a player that was brought in by David Moyes 2 seasons ago. I thought he did quite well at West Ham, but then in this past summer window he was loaned out because he didn't fit into Julien Lopetegui's plans. Now of course Lopetegui's out, Graham Potter's in, and I do think that James Ward-Prowse would feature prominently in the side, especially if Edson Alvarez does leave and you aren't really looking to replace him immediately, looking to cancel the loan for Ward-Prowse at Forest, who hasn't even really been able to start or hold down a starting position in that team. It might make a lot of sense for both the player as well as West Ham going forward. Now Carlos Soler, a great player that was loaned in from PSG, hasn't really been able to establish himself in both the PSG team as well as the West Ham side, but it looks like West Ham will only be loaning him for this season, so you don't need to extend him or make it a permanent transfer. It looks like realistically wise, West Ham are going to move on from Carlos Soler come the end of the season. But yes, after assessing the squad, there are quite a few players that will look to feature prominently in the Graham Potter system, then players that definitely would fit his style of play, whether he's going to be playing a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-3 formation. formation, the likes of Kudus and Paquetá behind the striker, possibly getting the best out of Bowen as that number 9, or maybe out wide, or maybe also just in behind the striker. Now, in terms of the strikers, they don't really have a lot. Fulkrug hasn't really hit the ground running, but he might be able to do something under Graham Potter, whether that's off the bench as an impact player or starting up front and being a natural battering ram for this West Ham attack. But maybe having the likes of a Bowen start up front, having that pace in behind, having him be able to drop off the backline and link with the midfield, that is something that Graham Potter does look to incorporate into a style of play. The build-up structure is so important to a Graham Potter system. Now, speaking of which, let's have a look at the potential formations that the new West Ham boss could look to instill in the team. Now, before we get into how Graham Potter will look to structure his side going forward and the formation that they will look to use, or the formations that they may use, the tiki-taka style would very much represent Graham Potter's approach to how he likes his sides playing their football. Whether it was at Chelsea or even at Brighton, the style of football was very appealing to the eye. So the tiki-taka approach makes the most sense, and then of course go ahead and hire the best possible scouts possible and make sure that you are trying to develop these players with this approach, with this Graham Potter-esque philosophy, and therefore you'll have the team growing in a better direction and the football will also improve greatly. Now, Julien Lopetegui looked to play a side in either a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-3-3 structured formation. Now, of course, Graham Potter could probably do the same with this side, but I think that a lot of these players would more so suit a 4-2-3-1 system that I know Lopetegui did kind of use every now and then, but a 4-2-3-1 system makes the most sense. And maybe not even having Fulkrug start up front, having a Jared Bowen playing in that striker role would also greatly improve the team. Of course, with the way that Potter likes to play, like I said, it's all about the build-up. So having the striker not just be the focal points up front, but having him drop off and into the midfield, helping create those aggressive overloads in the middle areas of the pitch, that might also help with the aggressive approach that Potter will be looking to play and help dominate the opposition with the fluid football that he will look to implement. Another formation that Potter heavily used during his time at Brighton was a 3-4-3, or in this case a 5-2-3 system, having the wing-backs play higher up and looking to overlap and overload down those wider areas when needed or required. But I also think that Potter will have a bit more of a pragmatic approach to how he would set up the side, and using the likes of Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Emerson, or maybe another new signing coming in, and have them have a bit more of a defensive presence to their game plan, making sure that they are trying to keep out the opposition from those wider areas and trying to minimize the space they would look to utilize to try and exploit the West Ham defense. So these are the two structures that I do see Graham Potter looking to implement at West Ham. It will take some time for the players to get used to their roles and their new positions and maybe certain structures and rotations that they might need to learn, but realistically speaking and logically speaking, this is the direction that West Ham will look to move into under their new manager. Now, of course, they haven't played a game yet. This is all just a prediction, and I will be making the Graham Potter West Ham tactics after an extended period of time once I've seen them play a few games. It can't just be one or two, but it will be a few games before I will look to make them, and then I will link them to this video for you guys to go ahead and implement into your realistic West Ham career modes. Now, before we get into the transfers, I would just like to run through how West Ham tend to set up their scouting systems, and they mainly tend to scout in the UK. So currently they obviously are scouting young English talents, but also they have been scouting, and they do currently have some great young talents from Northern Ireland. So looking to scout there for the next 9 months or so should be key. And then I've targeted key areas like right back, left midfielder, left midfielder for Northern Ireland, and then for England I've gone ahead and looked for a ball playing centre back, a deep lying playmaker, as well as a playmaker plus attacking midfielder that could look to add to either a 4-2-3-1 or possibly a 5-2-3 system going forward. Now, taking a look at the shortlist of certain players that I feel would make a massive impact at West Ham, but also players who have been linked with a real life move to the club. Now, Alfie Doughty has been at Luton. He is in the final 6 months of his deal, so he could be picked up for a great price, maybe 10 million or so, and he would definitely look to replace Aaron Cresswell in the future and just add to the left hand side, whether it's playing as a left wing back or just a left back in general. He does get forward, he does have a great cross on him, can whip it to the far post, the near post, supply the attackers in the box with opportunities to score from, and like I said, I think he could be a great addition to the side, as well as replacing Aaron Cresswell and all that he really offers to the squad. So when doing the research for this video, Will Hughes was a name that kept popping up with a potential transfer to West Ham, and I must say it makes a lot of sense. West Ham are a club that spent a lot of money in this past transfer window, so bringing in a player like Will Hughes, who is in the final 6 months of his deal for a cut price fee, makes a lot of sense. A player that has a lot of experience, has a lot of technical qualities that can assist in that midfield area, especially if you do shift on Edson Alvarez. A player like Will Hughes is probably the perfect player for a Graham Potter system. Has all the technical qualities, has all the capabilities to be a great midfielder for the side going forward. But of course, two players that have also been linked is Keenan Dewsbury-Hall as well as Carney Chukwuemeka. Now, Carney Chukwuemeka is also linked with a move to Strasbourg, a team that are in the Chelsea group, I should say, the Todd Boehly Chelsea group. So he could be on his way to France, but he's also been linked with a move to West Ham. And in all honesty, especially if West Ham are going to be playing a 5-2-3 system, having Carney Chukwuemeka play in that little pocket of space just in behind the striker, off the left or the right wing, could definitely prove to be a stroke of genius for Potter and West Ham going forward, as well as Keenan Dewsbury-Hall, who hasn't really worked out at Chelsea. He's only just signed for the club, but he could be available either on loan with an option for a permanent deal in the summer. That could be an option. Now, of course, in FC, it might be quite difficult to buy him because of the parameters of he's literally just signed, but maybe in the summer window, you look to bring him in from Chelsea, and of course, he's 26 years old. He possesses a lot of quality that could be deployed either centrally or just behind the striker, possibly as that attacking midfielder, maybe. But both of these players would be a perfect addition to a Graham Potter side. And then the last player that you could possibly look to sign is a former Graham Potter player, Evan Ferguson, who's still at Brighton. But a few weeks ago, Brighton put out to the media that they might be looking to loan out Ferguson, maybe with an option to buy. Of course, this is a striker that has a lot of potential and really did flourish under Graham Potter in the latter months that Potter was at Brighton. And of course, he did quite well under De Zerbi, and then he picked up an injury, and it hasn't really worked out. And of course, with the new boss, Fabian Hürzeler, he hasn't really been able to establish himself in the Brighton squad. So maybe looking to loan or buy him might be the best possible direction going forward, especially with the likes of Mikel Antonio being out for what looks to be at least a year, and he might even retire, depending on how bad the injuries are from that car accident that he experienced like a month ago. So Evan Ferguson makes a lot of sense. Jared Bowen, yes, can be a quality striker, but Evan Ferguson can be the striker for this team. So looking to bring him in might not be the worst idea. He does possess a lot of quality. He can look to drop off the back line. He can look to be a physical battering ram up front, be that physical presence in the box, looking to get on the end of the crosses or the cutback opportunities that inevitably West Ham will look to carve out and create for the striker. And lastly is this fantastic face creation of Graham Potter. He's currently not an FC25, so if you're starting a career mode with him and you want like the best possible face model or creation, I suppose, go ahead and use this. The link for it will be down below in the description. Make sure you like that person's video, show some love for that content creator. I think they've done a fantastic job. It's almost spot on for what Graham Potter actually looks like in real life. It's actually kind of crazy. So if you are interested in it, please be sure to check it out, and like I say, like that person's video because they have done a fantastic job, might I add. And there we go, people. That is how I would start off a realistic West Ham United Graham Potter career mode for FC25. I do hope you have enjoyed this video. Of course, it's just a little startup video, but if you have enjoyed this, please don't forget to smash that like button down below, whilst also subscribing if you are new and you like the content. We make tactics pretty much on a daily basis, every second day at least. So yes, if you are interested and you like the channel, please be sure to join up with the Brom Squad Gaming family. And also, if you would like to join up with the Brom Squad Gaming Discord server, the link for that will also be down below in the description. It's free. We chat everything IRL football, we chat everything FC25, all the pros, all the cons, and all that good stuff. So if you are interested, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, please, as well as join up with the Brom Squad Discord server. Anyways, until the next time, until the next one, I hope you have a smashing goddamn day, and I'm out of here. Peace.